Good day, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to this conference of yours. I'm really pleased to being asked to talk about the issues of higher education and the major challenges that we're facing today, because that's precisely the topic of a book I just published 2 months ago. So I'll be more than happy to share some of my ideas with you in today. The title of the presentation is Institutional Failure in Higher Education, between the Dunning-Kruger effect and GrayRhinos, and you will see how both topics are intertwined in today's presentation. This is an issue that has been interesting me for a long time. Now, what about the GrayRhinos? Because I'm sure you are very familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect. There are 5 species of rhinos in the world, beginning from the bottom right side, the Javan rhinoceros, then the Indian rhinoceros doing clockwise, the Sumatran rhinoceros, and then there is a white rhinoceros and the black rhinoceros. However, you don't see any gray rhinoceros there. However, a few years ago, Michelle Walker, which is a political scientist who has been working on issues of policies and preventing major surprises to happen to us, published a book titled The Gray Rhino: How to Recognize and Act on the Obvious Dangers We Ignore. She basically defined gray rhinos as a highly probable, highly impact, yet neglected threat akin to the elephant in the room. It is an unlikely event with complex causes, some understood, some overlooked, that came together in unexpected ways to produce a result that no one could have reasonably anticipated. There are no random surprises, but occur after a series of warnings and visible evidence. When I read about that, I started to look at the different issues that we are facing in academia that can be identified as gray rhinos. And before I get into that particular aspect of it, let me give you an example of a gray rhino that we're facing right now, and it has to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. There is a long history of pandemics in humanity, from antiquity until the COVID-19 that we're living today. We know this occur. We know this will occur again. There was a preparation for this conducted by the Obama administration, but the task force was disbanded by President Trump, and in consequence of that, we are living the kind of tremendous crisis we are looking at today around the world. So that's an excellent example of a gray rhino. So what I did is I went to the curriculum of higher education and developed a word map that is the key terms that were the most used when dealing with problems and challenges in higher education. And when you do that with a special software, basically what you do is to allow for the software to put in size the larger ones that you can envision, the ones that are the most repeated ones. And as you can see, there were many issues with graduate education. I'm going to concentrate just on a few ones today, and then we can take it from there. The first one is called cost of college. This is something that everybody's talking about. It's in the press every day, and let me go to the roots of the problem here. This is the way the state funding has happened in different states from the latest recession that we had in 2008 until 2018. The red bars represent the percentage of funding that was cut off from different states to higher education, and the blue ones, the one that were increased. Although you see a few ones, basically those few ones have to do with infrastructure, things that do not really affect the cost of tuition. When we take into consideration the way these are affecting the cost of tuition, and of course all this is adjusted for inflation, you can see that every single state in the nation from 2008 to 2018 show a tremendous decrease in the way the states were helping students when it comes to tuition. From the case of Louisiana, from 106.9% to the case of Ohio, 5.2%. So we need to make sure that people understand that this is not that just the costs have increased because we wanted to increase those costs, but basically it's because the state have been reducing their funding to higher education in a significant manner in the last decade or so. The other issue that has to do with this is compliance. The federal government put a number of regulations and rules for higher education institutions to comply with. And this has to do with both private and public institutions. There was a report published a couple of years ago about the regulations and how much they cost to colleges and universities. And this panel that put together this report found that actually it's costing to higher education billions of dollars every year just to comply with all these kind of federal regulations. Stanford University, a private one, for example, spends about $29 million per year in compliance, and that is 7.5% of the money they collect from tuition. So in addition to state funding, there are other issues that also comply with this. And we are all familiar with the issue of demands that are made upon us that are unfunded in order to achieve the goal of educating students. So this is another of the many factors that affect the increase on tuition for all of us. Another issue we are facing, and you can see this is not all about dollars and cents, is the issue of mental health in our institutions. There was a book published a couple of years ago written by Doris Iarovici called Mental Health Issues and the University Student, in which you can clearly see how the institution of higher education, almost without exception, are ill prepared to deal with the issue of mental health in their campuses. And this is something that has been noted in terms of funding and staffing and all the like, but also in terms of the statistics that we can see in the last few years. In this graph generated by Greg Henriquez, who did a study about it, you can see that in the year 2008, the number of issues that were presented when it came to anxiety among college students increased about 15% in their last 2 weeks. And in 2017, the increase was about 25%. When it came in any past year, 2008 was about 40% and almost 60% increase in overwhelming anxiety being experienced by these students. And the same thing came with depression, where shows that after a short period of time, students have sensing these problems, and many of them, especially in the case of depression, can lead even to suicides, which is a serious problem in many campuses. Although we don't have data yet about how the lockdown in the United States has affected our students, we do have something from France, who did a study published recently that showed a tremendous increase in suicidal thoughts, severe distress, high level of perceived stress, severe depression, and high level of anxiety that are affecting all these students that are still in a lockdown in that country. And we can only imagine after the lockdowns are eased in this country, we can get data showing similar levels of impact of the COVID-19 lockdowns on our students. When it comes to student preparation, we're also facing here a very serious issue. There is a report published by the Program for International Student Assessment called PISA for all the countries in the world for 15-year students in terms of scholastic performance in mathematics, science, and reading. They divide this in 3 groups: those that achieve 500% or more, the ones that are between 450 and 500, and the ones that are below 450. In the United States, as you can see here, we are number 31 in the world, behind the Czech Republic and number 32, Latvia. That means that basically our students are coming ill-prepared for college, as a matter of fact, in most cases, which is a serious issue that we have to deal with that. And as the social commentator Joseph Sobran once said, in 100 years we have gone from teaching Latin and Greek in high school to teaching remedial English in college. When it comes to demographics, that's another important issue that we have kind of put aside, despite all the rhetoric that we are employing in these cases. For example, there was a paper published in Science a couple of years ago about how academia looks at females in our sector, and the data are really troubling. Despite the fact that 60% of all the doctoral students in this country are females, that is the step before you get a position in academia, only 46% of them are assistant professors. 46% of females are assistant professors. The level of associate professors, the rank is only 38% for females. When it comes to full professors, we're talking about 23% are female. And when it comes to compensation, it's even worse, because female faculty earn on average 10% less than males. And there's no reason for that other than misogyny, misunderstanding, bias, you name it, in order not to provide our female faculty with the same compensation that male faculty that achieve the same levels of excellence in our business. And if some of you guys are thinking of becoming, female colleagues are thinking of becoming administrator, female administrators earn on average 20% less than males that are the females. So, and this is exactly the same differential that you find in corporate America. So this is not good for females. When it comes to race, the numbers are not good, despite the fact that this is a country that is diversifying very rapidly. You can see the latest data from the U.S. Census Bureau. The white population in terms of percentage is decreasing. The Latino one is increasing rapidly. The African American one is pretty much at the same level in the projection up to the year 2050. And other minorities, particularly Asians, is also increasing a little bit. Despite this shift that we are seeing in the demographics of the country, when it comes to the leadership of our institutions of higher education, we are not seeing that happening. This table shows you, in a study conducted by the American Council on Education, that the percentages of college presidents and chancellors has remained pretty much stable through time. White population, for example, in 1986 was 91.9%, and for 2011 was 87.2%. And overall, in terms of minority, you can see that just for the years 2016, the percentage was 13.5%, while for 2011 was 12.6%. That means that the proportion of minorities leading institutional higher education has been decreasing. And not only that, has been decreasing even among institutions who are cataloged by the Department of Education as minority-serving institutions. And that is really shocking data that we have in that regard. So what's going on with that leadership? There was a study conducted a couple of years ago by a number of academicians on the issue of why university leaders fail and what we can do to prevent it. And they identify a number of factors here. One is uninformed politicized boards, because these are the people who pretty much select who the president is going to be. And the board of trustees, board of directors, or whatever you want to call them, that select these individuals are usually people who do not have experience in academia, who are political cronies of the governor who place them in those positions, and therefore they don't care too much about if the person is well prepared or not for the position. These people, in many cases, they lack the leadership skills, the way to articulate the problems, to envision what is coming, what you need to do to avoid failure, and the like. And we have seen that in our lifetime happening many, many times. The other one is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, these individuals who know they are not well prepared for these positions, but take them anyway, they feel very insecure about their abilities, and therefore they hire people underneath them, and that percolates down to the whole scheme of the institution, people who are even less prepared than themselves. And this is something we have all experienced. I have seen that in many cases because I've been in many search committees for for presidents, and unfortunately it's a reality we have to deal with. The other one are scandals that you can see in the press many times, from the famous Penn State Sandusky affair to many others that occur and are part of the public imagination every time. So this is the kind of things that are really affecting the ability of presidents to be really successful. And this, of course, has a profound impact on public opinion. You probably remember this guy, Ronald Reagan. He was governor of California before becoming president of the United States. And he said, taxpayers shouldn't subsidize intellectual curiosity, when he was reasoning why the university system in California should be underfunded. And remember this phrase, because taxpayers shouldn't subsidize intellectual curiosity, he said in February 8, 1967, was the beginning of the anti-intellectual movement in this country that is today very, very strong. So as a consequence of this, we have seen how the opinion of the public about colleges and universities has decreased. And from 2010 to 2017, when the Pew Research did this study, you can see how the positive opinion of the general public has gone from 61% to 55%, while the negative opinion have going up from 26% to 36%. So now we are almost even when it comes to the public things about colleges and universities. And this goes very strongly along partisan lines. Among Republicans, only 36% have a good opinion about colleges and universities or college education, and 58% have negative opinion about education. While among Democrats, 72% have a favorable opinion, and still 19% have an unfavorable opinion about this. So that also shows you that when it comes to higher education, there is a strong polarization along partisan lines. And then it hasn't been helped by more and more pieces are published in the media. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was an editorial in Wall Street Journal saying academics and the progressive press mule state media controls. If you read this opinion piece, basically we are part of a conspiracy to take over the truth in this country, and that is really damaging to the opinion, the public opinion, because as we know very well by now, a lot of people believe in this kind of conspiracy theories. And there was another article published just last February the 4th in Forbes saying universities and the decline of American civilization. Basically, we in academia are being accused of the end of American civilization as we know it. That has far-fetched, these kind of things are running through the press. Even publications such as The Economist, which you could say is kind of the middle of the road, had a few years ago a special issue on universities titled, "The Whole World is Going to University. Is it worth it?" And they concluded not, that people shouldn't be going to college, as simple and as shocking as they may seem to you. That is despite the fact that the benefits of college education has been shown again and again in many peer-reviewed researches that have been conducted. Like, for example, if you don't go to college, you probably are going to diminish your ability to get income of $500,000 over a lifetime. That people with college education live longer, have better health, are less involved in crime, and the like. And when it comes to the public opinion generated by the Democrats themselves, I have a bad message for my liberal friends in here. Look, for example, what President Obama said in a visit to a General Electric plant in Wisconsin. He said, "Folks can make a lot of more potentially with the skilled manufacturing or the trades than they might with an art history degree." Fact check. A teacher of history in post-secondary education earns a median salary of $66,849, which is almost double that of a welder. So we are even getting misinformation from people who are Democrats and who, like Barack Obama, were college professors that again are putting in a bad light the sector in which we are. Our current president, Joe Biden, whose wife is and continues to be and has been for many years a college professor, said during a visit to a high school in Pennsylvania that salaries for college professors have escalated significantly. They should be good, but they have escalated significantly. This is, again, very bad news in terms of the image that these leaders are projecting about higher education. There was also a piece written by Brian Rosenberg, former president of Macalester College, who did a study about how the way the New York Times portrayed news about academia, about colleges, and they said it was terrible. I mean, probably for this newspaper of record, we're giving the worst image possible about our institutions. And he concluded saying, I'm thinking of submitting an opinion piece to the Times entitled, College Causes Cancer. I don't have any facts to support the claim, but apparently that doesn't matter. And the title is catchy as hell. That is how badly we are portrayed in the main media, by all kind of political leaders, you name it. As a consequence of that, we are seeing really tectonic shifts in the way public education is supported in this country, not only in terms of finances, but in terms of maintaining the basic pillars of our institutions. Just recently, in January and February, we have seen how Kansas regions are making easier to dismiss tenured professors. In Iowa, the same thing, and there are other similar moves in other states to deal with this particular issue. So as you can see, this is very serious and is undermining the very basic foundations of our institutions. So, what can we do about it? Mark Yudof, who past president of the University of California, once said, higher education should be doing a better job at communicating with society at large. We assume that people understand and value what we do when the reality is otherwise. So we faculty have to really change the tune, be more open to explain to the general public what we do, why it has an importance to society beyond purely education to our students, the research that we conduct, how they benefit society, and the like. Otherwise, our system is really doomed. Well, I just mentioned a few of the major aspects that I think should be highly concerning for all of us, the GrayRhinos that are in higher education, but there are many more, as you can imagine. I'm sure you are aware of those. Decreasing enrollment because of demographics, racial conflicts on campuses, sexual assaults, another issue that continues to be a serious one. Foreign and scientific rankings that push colleges and universities to spend an inordinate amount of money in amenities just to get up in the rankings and things that have nothing to do with academia. Anti-affirmative action moves, there are non-profit whose sole purpose is to eliminate anti-affirmative action from colleges and universities, and they have been doing a lot of that with the final goal to get the U.S. Supreme Court to change their decades-long stance that diversity is actually something that needs to be counted when it comes to admissions, because that's important for the education of our students. And then athletics. There is a study that was published a couple of years ago by Howard Nixon called The Athletic Trap, How Colleges Sports Corrupted the Academy, in which it is shown with numbers, with the statistics, that very few athletic programs bring money to colleges. Very few, less than 10. And the reason why that's not so evident is because the way these colleges and universities do their accounting. They use magic tricks to show that they're actually bringing money when they are not. And that is something that is damaging the basic structure of our institutions. And I always like to show these pictures in which you can see a football game going on between two colleges, that Mount Hermon and Deerfield Academy, that are not household names in athletics whatsoever, in which students and administrators were watching the match going on while the building behind was in fire, was burning. And this building happened to be the natural sciences building for the college. So there's a lot of work that we need to do in order to change the college culture that exists in this country. If we don't do that, I'm afraid that these GrayRhinos are going to hit us very badly if we keep our heads in the sand, not trying to look at what's really coming to us, because it's going to be really ugly. If you are interested in learning more about these issues and more depth, you can look at the book I published with my co-author, John Pratt, Dean of Louisiana State University, titled Institutional Failure in Higher Education, Why Some Colleges and Universities Fail and What We Can Do to Prevent It. You can contact me directly, and you can find this book on Amazon. So I'm now open to any questions that you may have. Thank you.